Our home is the witness. It is the stage, and life is theatre. It makes us as we make it. We are the things we collect as they collect us. We are the morning light and evening stroll. We are our lovers and friends, our times in the sun and in the shade. The words we read, the glimpses of bodies and windows, the rain against our eyelids as we look up to the sky. We are that whisper and that embarrassed laugh, the tentative embrace, the envious look. We are where we come from. The home is the witness, and no witness is mute.
The river was here first from the hills to the creek, maybe the village and its pond. Then came the caves as temples and monasteries along the water, followed by the church and the school. Soon, this was the city, or at least the outskirts of one, a place to house refugees after the partition. Around these was imagined a new town, and like every new town, it was meant to be perfect. Within the orchard of mango trees, a community was to be made, a mirror of the nation in miniature. "1956 was the year of India's second five-year plan that focused on industry. The Life Insurance Corporation was formed that year by consolidating and nationalizing the insurance sector. It was to be an integral part of the nation-building program. It provided loans for large infrastructure and housing projects around the country.
During a recent two-day visit to Bombay, Prime Minister Nehru declares open Yogakshema, the new central office building of the Life Insurance Corporation of India.
In 1970, it built a large residential colony in suburban Bombay for its policy holders. The architect Charles Correa was invited to design it.
Own your home for policyholders, township projects, loans to societies and government housing schemes. The LIC has grown with a pledge to serve the people in life and beyond.
I've lived here since 1974, which is almost the year that this colony was actually begun, in a very lovely villa. Yeah. It's a colony that was designed and built by an organization that was called the Life Insurance Corporation, the LIC. If you bought a life insurance policy and you kept paying your premiums over the years, when the policy matured, you got a flat. So my parents bought a policy. They kept getting offers from the LIC saying, would you like a flat in this colony?
Those were the times of Russian ballet dancers and evil Americans, of the trickling images of elsewhere worlds, of lines at ration shops of repression and the dream of freedom, of evenings on the stoops of buildings, of adolescence and innocence, of gulmohar flowers strewn on the street.
No one remembers the names of these buildings, nice secular names though they are. You can only remember the number, the neatly ordered index that catalogues us all, and a cross-section of the Indian middle class of the 1970s.
And if you see the last names also, you'll realize that actually they all come from very different sorts of backgrounds, which is rare. Yeah, in this building, while I was growing up, there was a wide variety of different sorts of religions and castes as well, because of actually the nature in which they were distributed.
So Silveira is a Portuguese surname.
It's a Portuguese surname, yes, and they live right here.
The ghosts of where I grew up haunt every one of my first student design projects in architecture school. When I revisit those drawings, I recognize the scales, terraces, windows, doors as a vocabulary learnt by imitation, a vocabulary learnt by experience. My vision of the ideal life was the one that I had lived.
You can do whatever you want to.
There's another call coming.
Okay, chalo, bye.
A road encircles a hill covered with mango trees. Lanes lead inwards, ending at the edge of the forest. The apartment buildings are strung along with these lanes to the front and gardens to the rear. Terraces cascade down to the gardens, which merge into the forest. The cul-de-sacs keep the forest from being overrun by vehicles. In the design of the colony, you can see many of the concepts that shaped Korea's imagination for ideal living. The tube-like apartments with large openings on both sides allowed cross-ventilation. The open terraces celebrated what he termed the blessings of the sky, and the varying apartment sizes ensured that there would be a healthy mix of different classes living in the same building. The entrance to the houses is a step above the landing. This might seem innocuous, but it has been the reason for many conversations between neighbors who sit on it and chat. The doors and windows are made largely in wood, with minimum use of glass to reduce costs. After all, this was meant to be affordable housing. As a result, the monsoons meant darkened rooms for the residents, with the only light and air coming through the small frosted glass windows below. The single flight stair had a pathway beside that joined the street to the garden at the back. These shortcuts continue across the colony, connecting each lane in a pedestrian weave. People could walk from lane to lane through gardens and courtyards without crossing the main road. Children made friends on the other side of the colony. Today, many of these shortcuts have been shut down, with every building closing itself off by building compound walls due to security concerns.
Our home was always tech savvy. It must have been because both my mother and my father were engineers. My father was the archetypical modern Indian citizen. He was born in the 1940s. He studied at IIT Madras and the IIC Bangalore, the state's temples of science and technology, before working at the TIFR in Mumbai. This is where he met my mother.
They came from all over the country: Tamil Nadu, UP, Kerala, Punjab, accountants and banks, housewives married into the city, small businessmen who set up shops near railway stations, peons in offices at Churchgate. Bombay was the promise, the insurance policy, their foothold, their home. Before them, the inhabitants of this forest were refugees from Pakistan. They lived in low-rise, barrack-like structures. Many of these have been redeveloped into apartments today, while others lie abandoned. How does one make a home, or rather, how does one leave one? Some of them had carried what they could in a pile of trunks. The new house had a garden at the back, and they could see the sea from the upper floor. The furniture was arranged like it had been before, but it was an awkward fit. The older home spilled out of the shell of the new one, eccentric, disturbing. There are fragments that still remain from the history of this land. In the heart of the forest is a rock imprinted with fossils of leaves and trees. Just down the road are the ancient Mandapeshwar cave temples. These were turned into a chapel by the colonial Portuguese and are a state archaeological site now. Every year, the grounds around the caves are the sites for celebrations and assertions of identity. Mahashivratri is organized by a local Hindu organization, while in early December, there's a fair around the Church of Immaculate Conception.
I was 13 when Indira Gandhi was killed by her bodyguard. I don't remember the afternoon very well, but I can see us in front of the television set. the color TV we bought to watch the Delhi Asian Games in 1982. The only other memory of that time was the Sikh family who came to live with our neighbors for a few days. Refugees that found safety in the relatively secular nature of this state-built housing colony. This was also perhaps the reason my friends Zubair and Amjad found it to be the only shelter when their neighborhoods burnt in the Hindu-Muslim riots of 1992 and 93.
There are darknesses across where we hide, places that can't be seen. We play games of hide and find, discover each other in the night, in the forest, under the staircase, on the terrace, in the shade, in the shadow. Masks help us become the husband, the wife, the doctor, the patient, the chore, the police, in a rehearsal of who we would later become.
There we were, trying to be men. Our frontier to the south was the railway station that we sometimes walked barefoot to, where we had Chinese food on the streets. For New Year's, we used to take the train to the glitter of South Bombay, watch an English film, and then walk to the Gateway of India for the fireworks. On most evenings, we would walk to the edge of the city with the thick stench of the creek and the dank green of the mangroves. The sun set in the distance and mud skippers disappeared into the marsh. My arm around his shoulders, friends and lovers.
At night, they told us stories of hauntings to scare us. Secret passages, skeletons that walked. For the annual performance that year, they stole skulls and wore them around their necks, dancing in a version of a tribal dance they learned from Hindi films, bones rattling as they stomped around us. At family gatherings, we performed songs in order of our ages. My mother, my sister, my cousin, me. My cousin danced to Billie Jean Is Not My Lover. One of the terraces of our house had been turned into a music room.
Every process of evolution includes a negation of the past, of tradition, of oneself, what made us who we are. In other words, every process of growth must include in some way the death of the father.
आखिर कितनी दुनिया देखी है तुमने? मास्टर्स के बाद तुम्हारी शादी हो गई और अब मजे से अमेरिका में बैठी हुई हो। तुम कभी अगर बाहर निकलती तो तुम देखती कि लोगों के अंदर कितनी मुनाफिकत है, कितने डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स होते हैं। हाँ ठीक है, शायद तुम्हारी तरह मैंने जॉब नहीं की, पर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मुझे कुछ पता ही नहीं है। दुनिया में दो किस्म के लोग होते हैं कश्यप, बुरे लोग हैं और अच्छे लोग भी हैं। अच्छा, अच्छे लोगों की हिमायत में तकरीर करके मेरा दिमाग मत खाओ।
Okay, Jesus Christ, the photo is taken. Bye.
The only world he cared about was within these four walls. These walls have collected songs as residue. Songs off key, off beat, lyrics mangled beyond comprehension. Living La Vida Loca was Ina Mina Dika, but he whistled with perfect pitch. Filter coffee in the mornings, walking the dog, his small altar inside the cupboard, and quick self-conscious prayers before he left for work. Once when I was in ISC stories and obscure references to engineering technicalities that we were not meant to understand, only listen to. Bizarre imaginary inventions. Sri Devi posing with a plastic broom. To wait for an answer is to wait forever. I speak his name in the room and feel the emptiness expand, stretching itself across the walls. I feel the warmth, the smile, the comfort. Alone I felt his ghost rise and speak to me.
Being here, we can know we are with the sun overhead and the ground beneath our feet. Being here, his breath upon my shoulder and the cold air conditioner. I remember him, his spectacles distorting the ceiling fan. This won't be the first time I have said this, and it won't be the last. Destabilizing dizzy currents in the half-light of the computer screen, changing. I watch him rise again and again in a trance, in the summer like weather. Being here again and again, endlessly. Rewind, rewind, rewind. Memories of the throbbing drum machine, a last cuff, a shrug. Anything else that we could have done?
Have fun.
Goodbye.
The primitive hut, uninhabited, desolate on the empty street. Women in darkened rooms remember the laughter of children and old men wearing white, shielded from death by the watching eternal eye.
On the swing, the three of us sit and lie through our teeth for a promise he made to himself and made us keep. His name was sacrifice, hers is truth. She is him, I am her. On the edge of this memory lies an island of hope. Oceans rise and fall. The grass sways as we make like stars on the screen of the night sky. Constellations mirror our limbs. We dance, our bodies positioned still, but freer than ever.
Might it have been better to force his hand, to make him rather than let him? To be able to say no or yes, swaying this way and that, we remember
Being there forever. Waiting in the rain, the tarpaulin dripping impatience, waiting forever. Martyr, mother, my child, my only child, my father, my son. How precisely I remember
How
him.
precisely I remember him. Not his face, his voice sometimes, but more his aura. An easy warmth, a quick joke, a jealous love, a twinkle and a tear. Have fun. Goodbye.
There is something primal about this island. Nothing seems to stand still. Nothing seems to be permanent. Yet there is in those movements a fundamental, a basic and essential being gnawing at my fingertips. The computer screen blinks at me, the cursor waits. I free this rat trap cage bird and she licks my face until my heart sinks.
Say hi to camera.
Hi.
Yellow flowers. Say hi to camera.
We dance circles in formation,
stand still like statues, staring down at enemies.
carrying guns with no bullets, but with pride and accusation in our eyes.